Water is life, but what happens when life itself is privatized? Across the United States, investment firms, private equity groups, and corporations are quietly acquiring water rights, gaining control over a resource that no one can live without. At the same time, whispers of corporate cities are emerging, new company towns built not for community but for profit. These movements, one controlling water, the other controlling where and how people live, are setting the stage for a future we've seen before, and it didn't end well. Across the western United States, companies are acquiring water rights under the guise of investment opportunities. Firms like Water Asset Management have been buying up vast amounts of water access, setting the stage for scarcity-driven price hikes. Once control of a resource is consolidated, history tells us what happens next. The people who depend on it lose their ability to access it freely. We've seen this before in Bolivia. The privatization of water led to a national crisis when people were suddenly charged unaffordable prices for what had once been free. In South Africa, water privatization meant entire communities lost access to clean drinking water. Even in the United States, Flint, Michigan became a symbol of what happens when profit is prioritized over people. At the same time, a parallel movement is emerging. Corporate-built cities, marketed as sustainable and efficient. But history warns us of what happens when a single entity owns both your job and your home. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, company towns were built around coal mines, steel mills, and railroads, offering housing, jobs, and even stores that seemed convenient until you realized you were trapped. Workers were often paid in company script, not real money, which could only be used at company-owned stores, where prices were set at the company's discretion. If you lost your job, you lost your home. If you spoke out against the unfair conditions, you could be blacklisted, with nowhere else to go. Now imagine that same system, but with water. A corporation controls the city where you live, the job you work, the water you drink. How much do you really own in a place where everything you need to survive is a service, sold to you by the same company that controls your paycheck? In 1921, the largest labor uprising in American history took place, the Battle of Blair Mountain. Coal miners living in company towns where they paid rent to the same company that paid their wages. They had no rights, no protections, and no way out. When they attempted to unionize, the mining companies cracked down violently. Armed conflicts erupted between striking miners and private security forces, leading to a full-scale battle. Now, this wasn't a fight for higher wages. It was a fight for the right to exist outside of corporate control. When companies control your home, your job, and even the water, you do not own your life anymore. You lease it. History has shown us what happens when we surrender too much control over essential resources, and yet here we are again, watching the consolidation of water, the rise of corporate-owned cities, and the return of a system that has failed every time it has been attempted. But it doesn't have to be this way. We can protect our water. We can demand that our towns belong to the people who live in them, not the corporations that built them. We can learn from history and make better choices before we find ourselves locked in a system that we cannot escape. The decisions we make today will shape the world of tomorrow. Let's make sure we're not rebuilding the mistakes of the past.